Contemporary advertising as an index of consumer culture today. The world we live in is driven by markets, and our society has become highly consumerist in nature. It is not an exaggeration to say that the market determines most aspects of our identity. Sales and discount offers have lined up in our calendars along with birthdays. Quite inevitably, our lifestyles are shaped by the market. With this emerging power of the market, it is interesting to see how different media understand their audience to operate in a way that this power sustains. Therefore, the focus of this paper is to analyze advertisements and the underlying societal beliefs it deals with to cater to their specific audiences. How do advertisements contribute to this rising consumerist behavior of society? In these vulnerable and precarious times, an understanding of how our world functions and how we enable it to control us in more ways than one would help in understanding ourselves better and in also drawing a different future for this planet. This became the motivation behind the research on this project. The truism that the planet may not even be alive in the next 100 years or so gives us an even lesser time to really reflect on what we're doing. This gave rise to the need to understand advertisements, the medium that serves the market's aspirations, and how they convince the common human to give in to this behavior despite their varied circumstances. To ensure that it remains significant in our lives, what are the factors that they look into when they keep their potential buyers in mind? This is how I conceptualized my question. How do advertisements as a medium ensure that the market value sustains in society? How do they convince a consumer to buy a certain product? To the extent that one cannot imagine a life without a store nearby that sells materials, which consists of constructed needs and wants only. I will now talk about my findings. Marcel Mauss argues that the body calls for disciplines that are repetitive or at least periodic. Thus, pleasure becomes a habit. Our body feeds into our routine of consumption. Using a statistic provided by Source Dynamic Logic, I found that the platforms that advertisements use now are much wider in range, and hence wider is the reach and larger the outcome. I also found that using socially empowering messages and relevant political themes grabs the audience's attention and instantly makes the product a tool to further that particular social goal. Thus, companies now try to target the value system of the people to ensure that the product that finally comes into the consumer's hands not only gives them new material but also magically transforms them, gives them a new identity, thus giving the consumer higher incentive to buy it. AdWords thus work in this path. To look into this pattern in more detail pertaining to advertisements shown on Indian platforms, I analyzed 4 advertisements in video format that have circulated through varied media like YouTube and television. What I found through this study is how entrenched advertisements are in social issues. Their strategy operates within the advertisement by fading the product into the background and allowing the tagline to assume foreground, which promotes the product but simultaneously carries with it a social issue that has already gained attention at that moment. Thus, people are attracted to it primarily based on the brand's stance on relevant social issues, ultimately leading to the product itself. Through my research, I would like to bring people's attention to the urgent need for the disillusionment with advertisements and the commercial market. Studies of this nature help in understanding the changing patterns of the ever-growing market and how it controls our behavior and thus our identity in ways that we are not even aware of. The rise in this materialism and the machine-made, commodity-driven market is not just changing human values and human nature as a whole, but also dangerously affecting the planet. Humans are the sole reason for the 6th mass extinction, which is completely unnatural by considering only ecological factors. If humans have single-handedly caused this mass destruction, we must reflect on what we're doing wrong. Inevitably, we are exploiting everything to the point that it does not let any other creature survive, and soon neither will we. the amount of waste that is being collected from these products, and the amount of resources being extinguished to make way for further manufacturing of these products is reducing our planet's years of survival by great numbers. Therefore, the benefits of consumption practices must be considered with respect to the environmental consequences with every little purchase. We must start thinking multiple times before that next little plastic packet of chips or the next new phone, because by the end, none of this would really matter. Since consumers are agents of of the market, they can manipulate the impact and its consequences. Hence, by consciously changing our lifestyle to an eco-friendly one, the market will also adapt and change its ways to survive in society. The change, thus, begins with us. It is already too late to start thinking about the environmental crisis. If we do not change our actions now, we'll be on our way to becoming the first race to wipe out our own. Thank you.